Chapter 2. Pastries for dinner? Your fave Lester could never. Gotta pee. Later. The sword wielder looked delighted. Chop off head? His name Gunther was printed on an Amtrak name tag he wore over his armor, his only concession to being in disguise. Not yet. Lou Guselwa kept her eyes on it. As you can see, Gunther loves decapitating people, so let's play nice. Come along. Lou, Meg said. Why? When it came to expressing hurt, Meg's voice was a fine-tuned instrument. I'd heard her mourn the deaths of our friends. I'd heard her describe her father's murder. I'd heard her rage against her foster father, Nero, who had killed her dad and twisted her mind with years of emotional abuse. But when addressing Lou Guselwa, Meg's voice played in an entirely different key. She sounded as if her best friend had just dismembered her favorite doll for no reason, and without warning. She sounded hurt, confused, incredulous, as if, in a life full of indignities, this was one indignity she could never have anticipated. Lou's jaw muscles tightened. Veins bulged on her temples. I couldn't tell if she was angry, feeling guilty, or showing us her warm and fuzzy side. Do you remember what I taught you about duty, sapling? Meg gulped back a sob. Do you? Lou said, her voice sharper. Yes, Meg whispered. Then get your things and come along. Lou pushed Gunther's sword away from Meg's neck. The big man grumped, which I assumed was Germanic for, I never get to have any fun. Looking bewildered, Meg rose and opened the overhead compartment. I couldn't understand why she was going along so passively with Lou Guselwa's orders. We'd fought against worse odds. Who was this Gaul? That's it? I whispered as Meg passed me my backpack. We're just giving up? Lester, Meg muttered. Just do what I say. I shouldered my pack, my bow and quiver. Meg fastened her gardening belt around her waist. Lou and Gunther did not look concerned that I was now armed with arrows, and Meg with an ample supply of heirloom vegetable seeds. As we got our gear in order, the mortal passengers gave us annoyed looks, but no one shushed us, probably because they didn't want to anger the two large conductors escorting us out. This way! Lou pointed with her crossbow to the exit behind her. The others are waiting. The others? I didn't want to meet any more Gauls or Gunthers, but Meg followed Lou meekly through the plexiglass double doors. I went next, Gunther breaking down my neck behind me, probably contemplating how easy it would be to separate my head from my body. A gangway connected our car to the next, a loud lurching hallway with automatic double doors on either end, a closet-sized restroom in one corner, and exterior doors to port and starboard. I considered throwing myself out one of these exits and hoping for the best, but I feared the best would mean dying on impact with the ground. It was pitch black outside. Judging from the rumble of the corrugated steel panels beneath my feet, I guessed the train was going well over 100 miles an hour. Through the far set of plexiglass doors, I spied the cafe car, a grim concession counter, a row of booths, and a half-dozen large men milling around. More Germani. Nothing good was going to happen in there. If Meg and I were going to make a break for it, this was our chance. Before I could make any sort of desperate move, Lou Guselwa stopped abruptly just before the cafe car doors. She turned to face us. Gunther, she snapped. Check the bathroom for infiltrators. This seemed to confuse Gunther as much as it did me, either because he didn't see the point, or he had no idea what an infiltrator was. I wondered why Lou Guselwa was acting so paranoid. Did she worry we had a legion of demigods stashed in the restroom, waiting to spring out and rescue us? Or perhaps, like me, she'd once surprised a cyclops on the porcelain throne, and no longer trusted public toilets. After a brief stare-down, Gunther muttered, and did what he was told. As soon as he poked his head in the the other Lou, not Lou, fixed us with an intense stare. When we go through the tunnel to New York, she said, you will both ask to use the toilet. I'd taken a lot of silly commands before, mostly from Meg, but this was a new low. Actually, I need to go now, I said. Hold it, she said. I glanced at Meg to see if this made any sense to her, but she was staring morosely at the floor. Gunther emerged from potty patrol. Nobody. Poor guy. If you had to check a train's toilet for infiltrators, the least you could hope for was a few infiltrators to kill. Right then, said Lou. Come on. She herded us into the cafe car. 6 Germani turned and stared at us, their meaty fists full of danishes and cups of coffee. Barbarians! Who else would eat breakfast pastries at night? The warriors were dressed like Gunther in hides and gold armor, cleverly disguised behind Amtrak name tags. One of the men, Adalbert, the number one most popular Germanic baby boy's name in 162 BC, by the way, barked a question at Lou in a language I didn't recognize. Lou responded in the same tongue. Her answer seemed to satisfy the warriors, who went back to their coffee and danishes. Gunther joined them, grumbling about how hard it was to find good enemies to decapitate. "Sit there," Lou told us, pointing to a window booth. Meg slid in glumly. I settled in across from her, propping my longbow, quiver, and backpack next to me. Lou stood within earshot, just in case we tried to discuss an escape plan. She needn't have worried. Meg still wouldn't meet my eyes. I wondered again who Lugusewa was, and what she meant to Meg. Not once in our months of travel had Meg mentioned her, and this fact disturbed me. Rather than indicating that Lou was unimportant, it made me suspect she was very important indeed. And why a Gaul? Gauls had been unusual in Nero's Rome. By the time he became emperor, most of them had been conquered and forcibly civilized. Those who still wore tattoos and torques lived according to the old ways and been punished by the fringes of Brittany or forced over to the British Isles. The name Lugusewa. My Gaulish had never been very good, but I thought it meant beloved of the god Lugus. I shuddered. Those Celtic deities were a strange, fierce bunch. My thoughts were too unhinged to solve the puzzle of Lou. I kept thinking back to the poor Amphisbaena she'd killed, a harmless monster commuter who would never make it home to his wife, all because a prophecy had made him its pawn. His message had left me shaken. A verse in Terza Rima, like the one we'd received at Camp Jupiter. O son of Zeus, the final challenge face, the tower of Nero to alone ascend, dislodge the beast that has usurped thy place. Yes, I had memorized the cursed thing. Now we had our second set of instructions, clearly linked to the previous set, because the first and third lines rhymed with ascend. Stupid Dante and his stupid idea for never-ending poem structure. The son of Hades, cavern runner's friend, must show the secret way unto the throne. On Nero's own your lives now do depend. I knew a son of Hades, Nico D'Angelo. He was probably still at Camp Half-Blood on Long Island. If he had some secret way to Nero's throne, he'd never get the chance to show us unless we escaped this train. How Nico might be a cavern runner's friend, I had no idea. The last line of the new verse was just cruel. We were presently surrounded by Nero's own, so of course our lives depended on them. I wanted to believe there was more to that line. It's something positive. Maybe tied to the fact that Lou had ordered us to go to the bathroom when we entered the tunnel to New York. But given Lou's hostile expression, and the presence of her 7 heavily caffeinated and sugar-fueled gourmandist friends, I didn't feel optimistic. I squirmed in my seat. Why had I thought about the bathroom? I really needed to go now. Outside, the illuminated billboards of New Jersey zipped by. Ads for auto dealerships where you could buy an impractical race car. Injury lawyers you could employ to blame the other drivers once you crashed that race car. And for some reason, the Costco guys? It was the great circle of life. The station stop for Newark Airport came and went. Gods help me. I was so desperate I considered making a break for it. In Newark. Meg stayed put. So I did too. The tunnel to New York would be coming up soon. Perhaps instead of asking to use the restroom, we could spring into action against our captors. Lou seemed to read my thoughts. It's a good thing you surrendered. Nero has 3 other teams like mine on this train alone. Every passage, every train, bus, and flight into Manhattan has been covered. Nero's got the Oracle of Delphi on his side, remember? He knew you were coming tonight. You were never going to get into the city without being caught. Way to crush my hopes, Lugusewa. Telling me that Nero had his ally Python peering into the future for him, using my sacred oracle against me. Harsh. Meg, however, suddenly perked up, as if something Lou had said gave her hope. So how is it you're the one who found us, Lou? Just luck? Lou's tattoos rippled as she flexed her arms. The swirling Celtic circles make me seasick. I know you, sapling, she said. I know how to track you. There's no luck. I could think of several gods of luck who would disagree with that statement, but I didn't argue. Being a captive had dampened my desire for small talk. Lou turned to her companions. As soon as we get to Penn Station, we deliver our captives to the escort team. I want no mistakes. No one kills the girl or the god unless it's absolutely necessary. Is it necessary now? Gunther asked. No, Lou said. The Princeps has a plan for them. He wants them alive. The Princeps. My mouth tasted bitterer than the bitterest Amtrak coffee. Being marched through Nero's front door was not how I planned to confront him. One moment we were rumbling across a wasteland of New Jersey warehouses and dockyards. The next we plunged into darkness, entering the tunnel that would take us under the Hudson River. On the intercom, a garbled announcement informed us that our next stop would be Penn Station. I need to pee, Meg announced. I stared at her dumbfounded. Was she really going to follow Lou's strange instructions? The Gaul had captured us and killed an innocent 2-headed snake. Why would Meg trust her? Meg pressed her heel hard on the top of my foot. Yes, I squeaked. I also need to pee. For me, at least, that was painfully true.
Hold it,
Gunther grumbled. I really need to pee. Meg bounced up and down. Lou heaved a sigh. Her exasperation didn't sound faked. Fine. She turned to her squad. I'll take them. The rest of you stay here and prepare to disembark. None of the Germani objected. They probably heard enough of Gunther's complaints about potty patrol. They began shoving last-minute Danishes into their mouths and gathering up their equipment as Meg and I extracted ourselves from our booth. Your gear, Lou reminded me. I blinked. Right. Who went to the bathroom without their bow and quiver? That'd be stupid. I grabbed my things. Lou herded us back to the gangway. As soon as the double doors closed behind her, she murmured, Now! Meg bolted for the quiet car. Hey! Lou shoved me out of the way, pausing long enough to mutter, Block the door, decouple the coaches, then raced after Meg. Do what now? 2 scimitars flashed into existence in Lou's hands. Wait. She had Meg's swords? No. Just before the end of the gangway, Meg turned to face her, summoning her own blades, and the 2 women fought like demons. They were both Dimakiri, the rarest form of gladiator. That must mean... Well, I didn't have time to think about what that meant. Behind me, the Germani were shouting and scrambling. They'd be through the doors any second. I didn't understand exactly what was happening, but it occurred to my stupid, slow-modal brain that perhaps, just perhaps, Lou was trying to help us. If I didn't block the doors like she'd asked, we'd be overrun by 7 angry, sticky-fingered barbarians. I slammed my foot against the base of the double doors. There were no handles. I had to press my palms against the panels and push them together to keep them shut. Gunther tackled the doors at full speed, the impact nearly dislocating my jaw. The other Germani piled in behind him. My only advantages were the narrow space they were in, which made it difficult for them to combine their strength, and the Germani's own lack of sense. Instead of working together to pry the doors apart, they simply pushed and shoved against one another, using Gunther's face as a battering ram. Behind me, Lou and Meg jabbed and slashed, their blades furiously clanging against one another. Good sapling, Lou said under her breath. You remember your training. Then louder for the sake of our audience. I'll kill you, foolish girl! I imagine how this must look to the Germani on the other side of the plexiglass. Their comrade Lou trapped in combat with an escaped prisoner, while I attempted to hold them back. My hands were going numb. My arm and chest muscles ached. I glanced around desperately for an emergency door lock, but there was only an emergency open button. What good was that? The train roared on through the tunnel. I estimated we only had minutes before we pulled into Penn Station, where Nero's escort team would be waiting. I didn't wish to be escorted. Decouple the coaches, Lou had told me. How was I supposed to do that, especially while holding the gangway doors shut? I was no train engineer. Choo-choos were more of a Hephaestus thing. I looked over my shoulder, scanning the gangway. Shockingly, there was no clearly labeled switch that would allow a passenger to decouple the train. What was wrong with Amtrak? There, on the floor, a series of hinged metal flaps overlapped, creating a safe surface for passengers to walk across when the train twisted and turned. One of those flaps had been kicked open, perhaps by Lou, exposing the coupling underneath. Even if I could reach it from where I stood, which I couldn't, I doubted I would have the strength and dexterity to stick my arm down there, cut the cables, and pry open the clamp. The gap between the floor panels was too narrow, the coupling too far down. Just to hit it from here, I would have to be the world's greatest archer. Oh, wait. Against my chest, the doors were blowing under the weight of 7 barbarians. An axe blade jutted through the rubber lining next to my ear. Turning around so I could shoot my bow would be madness. Yes, I thought hysterically. Let's do that. I bought myself a moment by pulling out an arrow and jabbing it through the gap between the doors. Gunther howled. The pressure eased as the clump of Germani readjusted. I flipped around so my back was to the plexiglass, one heel wedged against the base of the doors. I fumbled with my bow and managed to knock an arrow. My new bow is a god-level weapon from the vaults of Camp Jupiter. My archery skills has improved dramatically over the last 6 months, but still, this was a terrible idea. It was impossible to shoot properly with one's back against a hard surface. I simply couldn't draw the bowstring far enough. Nevertheless, I fired. The arrow disappeared into the gap in the floor, completely missing the coupling. "Penn Station in just a minute," said a voice on the PA system. "Doors will open on the left." "Running out of time," Lou shouted. She slashed at Meg's head. Meg jabbed low, nearly impaling the Gaul's thigh. I shot another arrow. This time the point sparked against the clasp, but the train cars remained stubbornly connected. The Grimani pounded against the doors. A plexiglass panel popped out of its frame. A fist reached through and grabbed my shirt. With a desperate shriek, I lurched away from the doors and shot one last time at a full draw. The arrow sliced through the cables and slammed into the clasp. With a shudder and a groan, the coupling broke. Grimani poured into the gangway as I leapt across the widening gap between the coaches. I almost skewered myself on Megs and Lou's scimitars, but I somehow managed to regain my footing. I turned as the rest of the train shot into the darkness at 70 miles an hour, 7 Grimani staring at us in disbelief and yelling insults that I won't repeat. For another 50 feet, our decoupled section of the train rolled forward of its own momentum, then slowed to a stop. Meg and Lou lowered their weapons. A brave passenger from the quiet car dared to stick her head out and ask what was going on. I shushed her. Lou glared at me. "Took you long enough, Lester. Now let's move before my men come back. You two just went from capture alive to proof of death is acceptable."